Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing, the podcast for manufacturing leaders and professionals.
Designed for high impact on your way to work or unwind on your way home to gain clarity for tomorrow.
Step out of your comfort zone and discover new perspectives to add value, get results, and make a difference.
Yes, let's jump in.
Good day, and welcome back to another episode of Mindfulness Manufacturing.
Hey, everybody, this is Dave. Glad to have you guys listening to us today. We're super excited to have a special guest, Dr. Patrick Carter, and it comes with maybe some thought on, hey, Dr. Patrick Carter, yeah, he's a dentist. And he and I had a great experience recently as I was getting some dental work done, and he just caught me off guard with the very elements of what it is that we do on this podcast and the message that we love to share with our listeners. So I'd like for Dr. Carter, if you don't mind, we'll call you Patrick, with your permission, of course, and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and kind of where you came from.
All right. Well, Dave, thank you already for the kind words, and thank you for letting me take a part of this. Patrick Carter, I graduated from MUSC Dental School coming up on 10 years now. I own a practice in Anderson. It was a scratch practice about 7 years ago, so started out with no patients. We've built it up since then and been in the area these past 7 years. Practice general dentistry with a few other specialty involved dental aspects, but pretty standard practice that we see from all ages, from younger children to geriatrics and above. So we see kind of a wide range of patients, and of course we have several elements that we involve some manufacturing things into that we'll get to, I'm sure, shortly.
Okay, cool. Well, you left Clemson out, and you are a Clemson grad, right?
I am very proud.
I hear you.
So Dave, I'm going to ask you a question here. So, you always get me thinking a little bit different on things. What made you make the connection? And I thought it was interesting that you wanted to bring Patrick on, and what spurred this in you, Dave? What's the connection with Mindfulness Manufacturing?
Well, when you have your first dental crown at 55 and root canal and another dental crown, and you're sitting in that chair, it was amazing when I had this guy, right? I had this dentist. I didn't know him, and he was so attentive. He was so intent on listening to the description of my pain, where it was, and I'm looking around, and I've experienced the dentist chair many times before, but this guy had technology. Patrick had, in his practice, had technology, and I got to thinking, manufacturing. Without manufacturing, a guy like Patrick could not do what he does as well, where the practical side of working on teeth in someone's mouth, the old school did not have the manufactured equipment, the 4-axis machines, digital scanners, 3D imaging, computer-aided design, all of that. And it's like, he's literally manufacturing in my mouth with this equipment. He's making something that fits in my mouth real time. And the difference is, we're dealing with people. Patrick was so intent on the care, concern, the comfort. He was all in it. He wasn't distracted by any means. And I noticed that as a patient. And it's like, we're doing mindfulness manufacturing, but this principle goes through and through whatever industry, whatever profession you're in. And that's where, I dumped it out there, and I said, Dr. Carter, I said, look, you're different than any other dentist I have ever been with. I need to know your secret. And oh, by the way, I want to learn that on a podcast, what we call Mindfulness Manufacturing. And he said, I don't know. But at the end of the day, that's why we are where we are today. And I'm super excited about what Patrick Mike could share with us today about his success and how he delivers what he does.
Yeah, I can remember being back in Tillsonburg, Ontario, and my mom wouldn't tell me I was going to the dentist. And I remember, like, if she would turn down that street, I would almost start crying. And, and I wasn't a weak kid, but man, I was scared to go to the dentist. And employees at work sometimes are driving below the speed limit because they don't want to go to work. So Patrick, what do you do different? Like, how do you, like, I had a fear, like I had a complex of just going there because it was just like laying down that chair and I'm going to get hurt. And he doesn't really care what he does in my mouth. And what Dave's describing is something totally different. Like, it's a totally different culture. So what do you do that's different?
Well, I think it's probably meeting people where they are. Sometimes, people need, be talked through things, and you just kind of listen to their concerns. And sometimes people have, things that they just need to say about past experiences, and you need to listen. And once you acknowledge and know that they're being listened to, they know that you care. And if you know that you're cared about, as a person, then we can take care of the teeth. I mean, that's usually where it starts, because a lot of people have had a dismissive experience, where they don't feel like they've been listened to, not necessarily just in a dental office, but somewhere. And that feeling where, you say something and that they're not processing what you say. And, if you do that, then most of the time, everything else will take care of itself. If we can figure out what's going on, what the problem is, and between a conversation, once you know somebody a little bit, you can, all right, let's figure this out, talk about it. If you don't have a relationship, sometimes, we have to make a relationship in a dental office pretty quick, to figure something out. But you can tell sometimes immediately, you either are making a connection and you're figuring this out together, or sometimes you're not, and you're trying to always make a connection where, that I'm on your side, I'm listening to you, I want to figure this out the best way, that's the best thing for you, and tell me what I need to know to help you figure this out. Because, you've got a problem in your mouth. Most people are, uneducated. You just don't know. You can't see in there. You have no x-rays. They don't know. They're relying on you for a lot. And so I have to rely somewhat on them as well to try to get as much information from that person as I can to understand their concerns and their problems.
Yeah. Yeah. So, something that is interesting with that, I don't know how many patients you see a day, but I'm going out on a limb here to say most of the time when people come in, it's things that you have seen before, you have heard before and experienced. But for them, it's the first time, or they're in a lot of pain, or, a lot of anxiety, just again, like Trevor was saying in the dentist chair. So how is it that, what's the trick on being patient and listening when you already know or believe I got this, but you've got to sit here and listen to 10 minutes of the person, whine and talk about all this. It's like you had it figured out, on the first chapter, right? I mean, where does that patience, that bedside manner, or chairside manner, I'm sorry, but where does that come from? How do you teach that to your staff? How do you remain conscious of that through the day? Because that has to get old at some point.
There are times when you're listening to something, you realize you're given, explanation of what's going on. You've given this twice today and 8 times this week, but you have to explain it as thoroughly each time because it's the first time they've heard it. And so it's new to them. And so if you try to explain it less or get through it anymore, it doesn't come across the same way. As far as staff, I feel like staff, they follow your lead. They look as I have a couple of different roles in a dental office as a solo practicing dentist. As an owner, I'm the leader. I'm the primary producing person. So I wear a couple of different hats, and the leader aspect is something that has to be worked on. For some, it comes less natural than others. I've feel the leading aspect is more, never ask somebody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. And, they follow that. So, for as how to get through to a patient and not run out of patience with them or my staff to do it, it's just what we have to do every day is trying to solve problems and help people out. So,
yeah. It's amazing walking in the front door of your practice, just like someone walking in the front door of their manufacturing facility. It starts when that door opens, and the first people that make eye contact with you, by the time they get to you, in a manufacturing environment, by the time they get to their boss, their supervisor, they get to their machine, they've had multiple touch points with others in the organization, and it begins to set the tone for how the rest of their day will be. And so, from the person at the counter, when people walk in the door, to the technicians, what's the best way, I guess, to motivate and inspire them to follow your lead, to keep that ever presence of mind in connection with this is a brand new person walking in this door, potentially with anxiety? How does that happen?
I think it starts with trying to hire the right people. There's people who have qualifications that, on paper look like they would do a great job. And then there's some people, when I interview people, I'm trying to interview the person the best I can. I can teach somebody to do the job. You can't change somebody who they are after they're an adult. I mean, what you're getting. And so when I talk to somebody, I'm asking questions, I'm interviewing them. I'm really trying to figure out who they are. The people I have are top-notch people. I mean, just people. And so when somebody comes in and they're anxious, they're looking at them as another person, as a human being, that they're at our office and they want to take care of them. That's our job. We're open to see patients and help them out. And all of our employees feel the same way. So they see somebody, they connect as a human, that this is what we do. We see some people that are anxious and some that are not, but they're trying to, we just want to see them and help them. And, that's where it all starts. Every once in a while we have to, there's things that don't go as planned or whatever, and we have to sit and what's the best way that we should handle the situation in the office. And we, kind of usually just come back and look from the outside and say, what, if we were the patient and we're on the other side, what would we want to have done? And most of the time it works itself out and we figure out how to run the office that way. So it starts there with the people. And I love my staff. But that's how I chose my staff. That's where it all started. So I'm really happy with everybody that I have there.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, Patrick. And, you start with a good foundation and you can build off that. I know for my practice with mindfulness, what I've been learning is, when we train ourselves in that awareness, and what I'm hearing is, you're talking, you got open conversations with your staff. We become more aware of everything. And not only the things that we like that go well, some of the things that we don't like. And then having that awareness actually sets us free. What you're talking about is, hey, get together after, let's talk about what we didn't like, what didn't go well. And if we don't pay attention to that, what happens? It gets built up, right? It doesn't go away. That uncomfortable experience happened. And, just that training of awareness is to say, that's the mindfulness part, is that, hey, this did happen. And at some stage, it's either going to blow up, or we're going to talk about it now and kind of like just stabilize it in the mind and get talking. So how do you get your people bringing on things up when things are building up, when there are things that maybe didn't go as well? And how do you create that culture of getting that environment where people will say, hey, this didn't go very well?
Right. Well, it kind of depends. Sometimes, it's on the spot. If there's something we need to correct, it can be very simple things. And, sometimes it's, let's do it this way, and if you explain why, it just, most of the time I feel like, if this is why we're doing it, it makes more sense. It's understood. It doesn't have to be that the reason you were doing it was wrong. It's just that we think there's another better way. And sometimes it has to be a more thought out thing that we've had different times where we've met monthly, or now we meet short periods of time in the morning for a quick, discussion of daily things that will bring things up. So I think it kind of depends on how big the issue is, and how we kind of figure out, all right, which way are we going to handle this? So I probably, the bigger the issue, the longer we take to try to figure it out.
So what's that look like? What's that environment look like, Patrick? I mean, how do you do that? At the end of the day, beginning of the day, you stop, make patients wait. I mean, how do you execute that?
Yeah, we try to keep the day running as smooth as possible. If there's things we need to figure out, for most days, we don't have things that come up that we need to figure out or correct. Usually not an issue, but a goal is to always stay on time and to run through the day. And if there's something we need to figure out, to do it at non-patient time, if it's going to take more time than that. But usually, have a conversation with somebody, whoever it's going to directly affect, get their input. Usually I have an idea of the changes that need to be made. Want to get any input if I feel like, there's some input that if it's going to affect somebody in some way, to have their input into it, and then kind of make a final decision where I go back and say, all right, this is what we're changing, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Love that. Getting the buy-in from the team first. That's that whole, you want to get people behind you. You have to resolve those difficult conversations, and hey, everyone's got a different opinion, but at the end of the day, we need to stand together in front of the customer and give them that great experience that Dave explained.
Yeah. I think an interesting contrast here with manufacturing and what, Patrick, you do day in and day out. The folks on the floor, the manufacturing technicians, the folks pulling the handles, they're under a lot of stress. On the flip side, their leaders, their supervisors, their bosses, they're under a lot of stress. And many times these two worlds collide. And I'm curious on your perspective. You've got a stressful person in the chair, and yet you have just got done completing a stressful procedure elsewhere. And now those two worlds collide. So you've got stress in the chair and your own personal stress, and that room now, there's tension in that room. How do you inform your staff? How do you inform your patients? How do you talk to yourself to level that out and keep, a rein on that?
I'm a fairly even keel person, as a natural, that is pretty, kind of how my personality is. But it's still a struggle, to go from one situation and you're immediately into another, where, like you were saying, there could be a high stress situation. But when you come into that room and that chair and there's another person sitting here, they don't really care or want to know if you've had a bad day. They want to see the best of you. I mean, they don't want their frustration taken out in their mouth. So, I feel like I owe it to the patient to give them the best that I can give them. You just have to kind of box it away sometimes and go about your business. I mean, it's a challenge. I don't have a specific way, but it could creep in there if you didn't consciously make an effort to say, this is another person and we've got to treat them differently than the last person. It's just how it is.
You say conscious effort, and sometimes Dave and I get guests and we talk about the things that are going well and what we know, but to make a conscious effort, usually people that are successful have had some punches in the face along the way and some struggles, and that's why they're more conscious now. So what brought you to this state of consciousness? Give me a story that maybe didn't go well that made you learn and develop and made you who you are.
That is something I haven't put a whole lot of thought into previously. That's what's kind of shaped me to this point. I don't know if anyone wants to hear any terrible stories that have happened. I'm sure actually that's what everybody wants to hear.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I said that I haven't had things happen. There's stressful things that come up, almost every day. I talk to other dentists and there's just things that happen almost daily. And so when we have small stresses, I feel like it's easier to brush those off. When you have some really, stressful moments of maybe, a kid just starts going crazy for whatever reason, or somebody's acting very irrational and there's just some really wild stuff. So when you have something that goes small wrong, it seems much less severe because you can always compare it to something else. It's like, well, it wasn't nearly that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish if I'd have thought about it, I've got some interesting moments. I'm having a very difficult time pulling them out of my head right now. But
yeah, well, that's what we try to do here, right? It's a real podcast, and rarely do you find people that are really successful that hasn't learned from some challenges. And that's what we want to keep real in this community is, we bring on people that are successful, but we get there because we've tried things, we've gotten uncomfortable, and that's when you learn, and that's when you get in that state of consciousness is when, hey, I just got a cold water thrown in my face and I wasn't expecting that. And all of a sudden either this kid's screaming or this didn't go the way. And it's kind of like, oh, it's when we face those uncomfortable moments and then we make better choices moving forward. The moment happened and we're all going to have them. It's just how we respond.
Yeah, I think experience is, something that you can't put really a price on. I've been doing this I've been out of school for almost 10 years. And, I like to think every time in my life, I always think, well, I just don't know how much more I'll, learn or how much better I'll be as a dentist. And, I said that a few years out of school, I'm 10 years out. I'm like, at some point I'm going to get to the point where that I don't know that much more, or the experience I've experienced all I'm going to experience, but I have a feeling I'll probably be saying that for the rest of my career. And as I go along, I will probably be better and at some point until my body fails me. But the experience will, I think, always help me. and it'll always get better. So,
yeah, man, that is, I love to hear that. Everybody has war stories, horror stories of Patrick, what would be maybe one of the most rewarding aspects of your leadership with this practice and dealing with general public, dealing with customers, dealing with your staff? What would be one of the most rewarding times you've experienced to where you walked out the door and you said, yes, love it?
Mm-hmm.
What would something like that be?
It's typically somebody who has had, their teeth have been a struggle for a long time. Big part of their life, they've had problems, either pain or either just don't look good. They're having issues, and that we're kind of either a lot of times we're having to take them out and replace them, or either do something where we're just completely changing their smile. And when it does, so many times it completely changes who they are. They smile for the first time in 20 years, and they come in the next time you see them and they say, I haven't felt this way about myself in 20 years. And to change somebody's self-esteem, that's pretty cool. That we don't, that doesn't happen every day. But it happens, and that's cool. I mean, there's no other way to say that we have a profound effect on their just the way they think about themselves, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
love it. Yeah, I take away from you, Patrick, listening to you, it's just that reminder of taking those moments, understanding literally where someone's at in the other chair. And it sounds like you get to that place where you get that relationship and that comfortableness and talk about, what are you nervous about? And you kind of take that time to explain it. And you got to be, again, you got to be in that state of awareness to do that, right? You can't be focused on getting to the next patient. So what do you do like before you go into work, outside of work? You've got a family, you got a lot going on. How do you build that resilience to show up for every moment, a new person with that intent? Is there anything that you do outside of your work to make sure you show up with your multiple hats on and do what you do?
Yeah, I try to, I take the weekend to refresh, and, you try to give as much as you can during the week, and then kind of recharge, because that it's going to be a long week. But I enjoy going to church. That's something that I do that, my week, it's been a long year in that regard that we haven't been meeting. It helps me to, that's where I have my focus in life. I also like to, read. Sometimes I'll get into a good habit of reading books, and I feel like I'm always a better version of myself when I'm taking time to read. It just slows you down. You have more self-thought of just kind of what are you doing, or you just kind of more in touch with what's going on. So other than that, just I try to enjoy life when I'm not at work. Sometimes the practice, I've got a day off, and I'm doing more on my day off than when I'm actually at the office. But if I try to cut it off once I'm done with it, to take my mind off and to enjoy some life, and it helps me come back to be refreshed and ready to see each person as they are, and to listen, and to hopefully be a good dentist for them.
Patrick, before you hit the door going into work, what would be an example of your morning formula, your morning routine to stay grounded?
Well, I start my day off, as getting the kids ready. I mean, that starts, I've got 2 young kids, and that starts it. And I can't really start my day until they're out the door. But that's good, because it helps me to also not be thinking about the upcoming day at all times. It's good to have some separation of your life at home and your life at practice, because it can be difficult to manage that. And all the people that you see, you want everybody to be in good health but it's good to have time and a thing that you can put your energy towards, that you're just not consumed with it. And I love my kids, and that's good that I can, be seeing them until that point. And then once they're out the door, it's like I kind of look up and realize I've got some things that I need to do at the office, some things we got to figure out, and some patients to see. So that's when it starts. Walk into the office and we're ready to go.
Good deal.
Excellent. Well, we definitely appreciate you taking your time out of the office to spend some time with our community in Mindfulness Manufacturing and sharing these gifts of where you are today and on your journey. And thanks, Dave, for introducing Patrick to everyone.
Thank you, Patrick, very much.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. And I really appreciate the time.
Good deal.
All right. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. How you show up matters.
We'd love for you to subscribe, share with a colleague, and tell us what you think.
Your feedback's important to provide this high-quality, powerful program that makes a difference in your life and others. Take care.
See you next time.